and welcome to this week's We Create EDU Hangout. We're taking questions from you guys that we're going to answer, and we have some new guests with us this week, and I am Jacqueline. I run a channel called SciJoy where we do some hands-on science experiments, and I'll pass it off to Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I run a channel called Developmental Enthusiast where I talk about developmental psychology and graduate school and general things having to do with kids and families and that sort of thing. And I'm on Twitter at Dr. Langworthy. So yeah, send your questions our direction and we'll answer them today. I will pass it off to Chad.
Hi, I'm Chad. I run a channel called Childish. I actually run it with Raman Nizami, but she's not here right now. We do things kind of all over the place in science, just general science, education stuff. That's basically it. Twitter also at Childish_Wonder.
Chelsea, you want to jump in?
I was going to say, I guess I'll introduce myself next. I'm Chelsea. I run a channel called Practical Poppins. It is a channel specifically for nannies and parents, and I talk about my experience in nannying and kids and fabulousness and all of the challenges that come with raising kids. So I will pass it off to Jesse.
Hello, I am Jesse. I run a channel called YouCanScienceIt where I generally attempt to do experiments and usually mess up and share that.
Yay!
So since we have some new people with us tonight, we had some questions for you guys about how you started your channels. So why did you want to do educational content, and about when did you start your channel?
I guess I'll go first.
Sure.
So actually, I recently graduated from McGill. I just finished my undergrad, and I'd done a lot of research in science education, kind of teaching evolution to religious communities, and I took some courses on science education, and I did some like science journalism stuff, and then I applied to medical school and got in and decided to defer for the year, and part of that was to explore science communication more. So part of that whole thing was I decided to make this channel and kind of see science education in a different format. So that was kind of my road into it.
Awesome.
Right, so I guess I'll go. I actually ended up graduating with a degree in communications and marketing, and so totally, completely different path, and I have like a both through art history and other stuff. And I only came back to science much later. I was actually watching Despicable Me with my kids, and there was that scene where it's going back through Gru's childhood, and it's like, look, Mom, I made a rocket ship. And I was like, I wanted to make rocket ships. What happened? How did I end up with the degree in communications? So sort of along with realizing that and starting to go back to school, I was watching a ton of YouTube videos while I was at work, because fortunately being in marketing, they're not allowed to block YouTube. So I got to watch a heck of a lot of those, and I just kept running up into this this point where I wanted more, but there was a gap between my knowledge and like the next step. There was a lot of like, hey, wow, science is cool, and then there was a gap, and then there was like a full-on lecture. And what I realized was I really wanted to find a community or make a community that had kind of that in-between stage where it's like, well, maybe you're not a professional scientist, or you're learning it, or you just think it's cool, but you want to actually get your hands into it, not just like watch like what somebody else did. So, after just being frustrated that it didn't exist for a while, I came across one of Veritasium's videos where the classic advice is always just go do it. So I started.
Oh, cool. Yeah, go do the thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry, I think we just got a tweet that said they weren't able to.
I just saw that.
Yeah, they're not able to comment on the live stream. You can tweet us questions. We do see your
Yes, we are watching Twitter.
So many of us. So any questions that you have, please tweet them to us, and we will answer them.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, pulling stuff
And,
over here. Okay.
and now we all look at our phones to try and figure that out.
What are we doing? So I'm curious for Jesse and Chad. I think you're both fairly new creators into this whole YouTube world. I'm curious what things you have found especially helpful as you've started your channels. Things that you have really relied on to make your content better. Little tips and tricks, anything like that that you've learned along the way that you want to share.
I'll go first. So my first video that we ever made, it was an issue that I thought was really important, and it was about like how basically students weren't getting enough sleep in high school. And I did a ton of research, and me and Rama wrote a script, and we thought it was really good, and then we filmed it, and we put it up, and it ended up being like 7 minutes long, and no one could sit through all of that, and they just found it boring after like a minute and a half and closed it, and didn't actually get to the part where we actually talk about the reasons why it's bad. So part of that was kind of to make them way shorter, much more focused, and kind of to jump straight into it, as to have before like having this whole preamble about like why this is important. You kind of just get into it and try to make it as short and kind of sweet as possible. So that was a big difference. Like it changed the style that we made it in and how we wrote our scripts. And since then, I think it's helped a lot.
Yeah, I would agree. That's something I've definitely found as well, that I like to talk a lot, and I need to not talk a lot. I need to be cutting it down.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I've actually been sort of going the other way. My videos have been getting progressively longer and longer, and yet they've been doing better. So I don't know what I'm doing right. I mean, when you were talking about kind of like avoiding the preamble and getting rid of all the excess stuff, I try to follow the lead with awesome advice, which is just kind of like jump into it and get going, because if they are not hooked in the first sentence, or first couple of seconds, then that's it. I was watching an interview about Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, and he made the comment of like, well, you have to hook them in that first sentence to get them to read the first page, and so on. And so that's kind of the tactic that I've been trying to do, is like give you something interesting in the first 10 seconds that hopefully is like, well, now I have to find out what it is.
Right. Makes you go on to the 30 seconds, and then makes you go on to the minute, and then makes you go on to the 10 minutes. Yeah. And eventually they're like, oh, I've been watching for half an hour. This is so cool.
How did I get here? Yeah.
And also kind of like where I'm aiming is longer than like, hey, wow, this is cool, or hey, this is an idea that you may not have heard of, and I'm looking for that kind of middle length where there's a bit more information, but not a whole hour and a half, 2 hours of talking.
Yeah, one of the things I'm struggling with a little bit is figuring out which things to go short on and which things to go long on. So there are some topics that I want to cover pretty deeply, but that requires time. But it also, sometimes people aren't as interested when it takes longer, and especially if I can't make it real snappy in that first 30 seconds. So it's a little bit of it's trying to find that balance, I think, and figuring out which pieces of content need more time and which ones don't too. I see a lot of creators, just sort of the big name creators who are almost to a fault confined by their time structures. This video will only be 5 minutes long. I won't go over 5 minutes, to the point where you end up watering down content so much that it might interest somebody initially, but is it really teaching them anything? And if teaching is your goal, then how do you make sure that you're using the tools you have to make that happen?
And I do have a... So
no, go ahead.
mine's a little tangent, so if you wanted to go build on this, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. I have a thing I'm writing down, so I will
Okay.
keep it in it.
I do have a question for Jesse. You have been all over Reddit, one, helping We Create EDU, thank you very much, and asking us questions, but you've also been posting your videos there. And I think, have you posted all your videos or your more recent ones? Because I know your more recent ones have gotten a lot more views, and do you know if that's from Reddit?
Yeah, it's definitely from Reddit. I've been spending, before I started this, I had not done anything with Reddit. I didn't know how to use Reddit, and I still find it very, very confusing. It's clearly been written by programmers.
Yeah. Yes.
And like the fact that you have to type /r to like associate something, I'm just like, seriously? like you can't have a graphic interface? The first thing I did when I got there is I just like got rid of all of like the automatic links that it like gives you to follow because they're all junk. And then I spent a very long time just searching keywords and looking at all of the communities that were already on there. Because I was like, I know there's people who want this content. I believe that there's people like myself who would like to see what I made. And it's just finding where they were hiding. So, like all of those big, Reddits where they have like 4 million followers, like those are totally pointless because they get posted up so fast that nobody will ever see your content unless you're already way super popular. And then there's like 1,000,001 dead pages on Reddit where it's like they made like 30 posts because they're like, I'm going to make a Reddit, it's going to be an amazing thing. And then nobody found it, and then it's just empty.
Right.
So I figured out that along with like finding keywords, that like the best sort of number of people on Reddit is like somewhere between like 10,000 and 100,000, and if it's really targeted exactly at who you're looking for, like if you can find a subreddit that has like 1,000 people on it, that's really good because then when you post something, it stays up in the new, the new videos long enough that everybody who follows that subreddit actually finds your content. And the ones that I've noticed that are finally like working for me is my latest videos were on quantum physics, and so I found a subreddit that was just called Quantum, and that one went pretty well. And then also a subreddit that was just called Physics, and that one worked also very well. But I kind of had done like test ones before because there's a couple of good Reddit subreddits where it's like curious videos, and there's another one, educative videos, which are kind of smaller communities that are just focused around educational content. And it kind of tested which videos were decent because like the first couple like are still really choppy and I have sound issues. But it was just kind of like a feeler to see like, oh, does this work? How does Reddit work? Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I've also been trying to just use Reddit as a user. It still feels a little bit weird, but I didn't want it to like, turn into me just like spamming people, be like, watch my videos all the time. I wanted to share things about like from this community, or I made a couple of posts on PBS Idea channel because they have like a really vibrant community there, and it just helps you like get used to the social etiquette of being on Reddit.
Yeah, because my sense is that on Reddit, you're better off if you're kind of posting other people's content, at least initially, and sort of getting, not like twisting their arm to get them to post yours, but you know what I mean, like building awareness about like, hey, you're an active member of the Reddit community, and occasionally posting your own stuff is fine, but yeah, you don't want to be super spammy about it. Is that the correct impression? Okay. Yeah.
That is the correct impression. Also, if you kind of, by posting other people's stuff, so like what I did is I went and I found people's stuff that I liked that was similar to mine, and I was like, oh, they're doing what I want to do. Let's see who likes this.
Okay.
So I went and I posted like, I posted a bunch of videos from Physics Girl and like from Smarter Every Day, which are obviously they're bigger YouTube people at this point, but it's kind of like, well, who responds to this content when I find it?
Okay.
And there are some places when you go, you have to read the Reddit for
Right.
each subreddit. Some of them ask you not to post your own stuff, specifically, like it's
And other ones specifically ask you to only post your own stuff.
Yeah, so it's you just never. Every place is a little bit different.
Which is kind of a cool thing about Reddit, I guess. Yeah, I'm just beginning to explore Reddit, and when I first signed up, I was like, where do I click? Like, I don't understand. Yeah.
It looks like it was made in like the 90s or something.
Like, past from the past. Here we are. Oh, boy.
Have you found? I know you have a lot more views, but did you get? This is why I wondered about, like, when you share on Tumblr or Reddit, did you get more subscribers? Because I know sometimes that boosts my views on videos, but not necessarily subscribers.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of like a little bit amorphous how it is, but considering how much of a boost I got in the last couple of videos, I definitely saw a direct relationship to getting new subscribers. Like the last video I put up ended up getting a whopping 700 and something views. I'm really excited.
That's awesome.
And then that translated into about 30 or so new subscribers.
Nice.
On YouTube. And I picked up sort of trailing out from that, like I could see like, oh, that's the same person, would then like follow me again on usually Twitter. I think I got one on Tumblr.
Mm-hmm. And how much time does that take you per video? I'm just curious.
Like in terms of like extra promotional
Yeah.
Right.
stuff. I'm gonna say like 30 minutes.
Okay.
To just kind of post it.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I've invested a lot of time in understanding Reddit.
Right.
I spent a lot of time just being there and figuring out, like, oh, these are the 7 ones that I should try posting on to see whether it hooks.
Right.
And these are the kind of communities that I'm just beginning to sort of pull out of the weeds of Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, it only takes like a few minutes after like my video goes live to be like, okay, well, let's go ahead and add it here. And usually then Reddit has some rules about where, like, so to reduce spamming, like you can't post things over and over again. Like if you're trying to post something within the next 10 minutes, it's like, no.
Right.
I don't care what it is you're posting.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's a different link. No. So.
Right. But the initial time investment of like finding those little pockets of communities is.
Yeah, and that's kind of like an ongoing thing. Like I was on there today, just like I went back again to like the search and was just like, is this gonna be up there? Like.
Right.
Does anybody else say DIY science? I don't know.
I think that's a great point because whether you're using Reddit or Twitter or Tumblr or whatever social media, the legwork that you have to do before you do the video or before you start trying to promote your stuff is huge, and it's constant. You know, there's obviously this peak time when you're doing a lot of that, but then I think you're right. It's constantly going back and finding new places and finding new people and, you know, subscribing to their stuff and that process, which you don't always think about when you go into YouTube. I didn't think about it as much as I should have, perhaps. Felt like, oh, that's a huge time investment. If you want your stuff to be seen by people, that you have to spend the time, you know, at least on the front end of doing that work and figuring out where to put it.
And on the plus side, I think the more you do that, it's not like, oh, I did this one day and that's, you know, all it's seen. But I feel like the more you build, it just keeps kind of going from there. Like kind of like a Tumblr post you put up and, you know, 3 months later people are still sharing it. I think whatever groundwork you lay keeps building and building and building more and more of a presence for you.
We have a question from a viewer that I'd like to throw out. Let's see. They asked, do you have any tips on keeping a channel going if you can't upload often? Wouldn't I like to know?
Good question. I feel like that goes into social media. I mean, I've been trying to have a schedule with my channel, but with life and full-time jobs as well and all of that, it's really hard to keep a regular weekly or bi-weekly schedule with videos. So I personally have been just really trying to stay active on the social media that I am most active on. So I've been trying to stay, active on Twitter, active on Instagram, and connecting with people there so that those people don't forget me. You know what I mean? So because I feel like a lot of my views don't necessarily come from my subscribers. There's a decent amount from my subscribers, but a lot are click-throughs from other places. So I feel like, at least at this point, if I'm active in those places, that is still kind of keeping me going.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing that sort of goes along with that is trying to find other places to post your old content. That because after the first couple weeks that it's been up, YouTube is pretty much done serving your stuff unless somebody's searching for exactly what you made, or at least really close to the title that you put in there. So like finding another place to post it up on, either on Reddit, or if you find a new community and you're like, hey, this is this other thing that I do. Also, lots of use of tags and hashtags and search terms and that sort of stuff helps keep your content to continue to be found as time goes on. Because I think that's the other reason that when I was looking at the little bit of analytics that I have, I think that's the other reason my more recent videos are doing better, because I was just more, I picked terms that people were searching more to put in there, so I think it's actually coming up when people are looking for that sort of content.
I think that's a great point about making sure that you're sort of not reusing your content, but that the video that you made 2 months ago might still be relevant to somebody else in another area, another community or whatever today, even though for you it's long distant memory, like, that was a month ago, I don't know. I often forget to do that. I'm one of those people who's very task driven, and so like, check it off the list. Okay, it's done. I don't have to think about it anymore.
Out of the brain.
Right, exactly. Done, moved on to the next thing. To my detriment, there are things that I've done, and people will be like, oh yeah, I saw that thing you did. And I'm like, wait, what did I do? I don't know. What are you talking about? That was a week ago. So making the concerted effort to take content that you already have, that you've already made on your channel, even if you can't be updating every week or every month, or whatever is often by your definition. I think that's a great point of take the content that you do have and try to make connections with people around that content.
The other thing that I've been doing to try and keep myself on a schedule is I went into this whole YouTube thing very deliberately from the beginning, so I had like a bit of a lead time, but you could still do it if you're already in a lull, is to just try and record a ton of content so that you have like multiple projects sort of continuing through the pipeline of like, oh, well, I don't have time to record an entire video today, or I don't have time to edit an entire video, but I can edit for 5 minutes. And eventually it's still going to get the work done. And if you have enough of a backlog just kind of ready to go, it's a lot easier to keep to some kind of a schedule, though. The one that I set for myself has been slipping. I keep being like late.
Yeah, I have like video weeks where I'm like, oh yeah, I have to make a video this week, and the week like starts on Sunday, but then it gets to like Saturday night and I still haven't posted anything. I'm like, the next Sunday counts as this week, right?
Do you guys post on like particular days of the week? Have you seen that affects your view counts at all?
I don't know if I have enough data yet to say that it affects the week.
I know better than to never have tried that. This won't happen. As soon as I get something done, I'm like, I'm releasing it right now. Like Sarah said, I'm like, it's out in the ether. I'm never going to see this again. I'm so glad I'm done with it. And then move on to the next thing. Which is not like I know the best way to do it, but then I just know I can move on to my next video and get more and more content out, because I don't think I have enough people that would care yet, to be honest. Like the audience not big enough to expect something to show up all the time.
A certain day. Also, I've been very careful to never actually say this is the day I release on.
Right.
Just sort of like it's vaguely.
See you next time.
Well, I tried to do like every Wednesday for a little while, because I thought maybe, you know, with nannies and whatever, that's in the middle of the week, and they're like having lunch, and they just want to sit, and so I would release it at like nap time for, you know, in the middle of the week as a little break, which may or may not have worked. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of data that says otherwise, because I don't have that many videos up yet. I think it's good and bad, because it was good in the fact that it kept me kind of honest, you know, it kept me like, okay, Wednesday I have to get a video up, so I've got to get something done by Wednesday, you know. But then it also stressed me out a little bit, because I was like, oh God, it's Wednesday, I have to get a video up, you know. Panic! Exactly. So like if I didn't have it totally ready yet, I would be up at like 4 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it can be pro and con, and personally I enjoyed having it like a set schedule kind of thing, but I don't know that Wednesday is actually going to be the day that works, because it might not. I mean, I don't know that people are just really on Wednesday. Maybe it's going to be Friday, maybe it's going to be Saturday or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe when I have more data, I'll know.
Let me know.
I'll get back to you on that.
I guess kind of on the flip side, for We Create EDU, we set a schedule. This is so it's the first Monday and the third Wednesday of every month, but that's just so we know that that's a time that most of us can kind of. We have no idea if this is the best time for the viewers, but we do know
It's when we can be here.
This is when we can all talk.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have like. So this is reminding me of some of the stuff that I talked about on Reddit with target audience, and trying to sort of come up with a way to imagine who your audience is before you have an audience.
Right.
And so for one of the things, like I decided just rather arbitrarily that I was going to release my videos during the week just before lunch, because the target person that I had imagined for myself, that like the ideal person who's just so going to love every single thing that I make always, this imaginary person, their favorite time to watch is like at work during lunch. So my video better be there at that time.
Oh, I totally am feeling you on that one. I had that in my head too, yes.
So
maybe there is that one person that really enjoys watching their videos at lunch. Maybe for that one guy.
So that one view that you got.
That was the winning view.
Everybody else watches it at 3 in the morning, but you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that has struck me a little bit about, you know, trying to play the timing game, like what time of day do you post and that sort of thing. One of my good friends is currently in the Philippines for work, and so I'm constantly like, wait, what time is it there? You know, so for her it's like 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I'm like,
I was like,
so
it's like tomorrow right now. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, and granted, probably most of our audiences at this point are primarily in the United States and Canada, but, you know, thinking about like, oh yeah, it's actually tomorrow on the other side of the world. It's their lunchtime. So, you know, really it doesn't matter when I post it. You know, a lot of people are going to watch it when they watch it, but it's hard not to get buried in the subscription feed. I think that's probably the biggest challenge. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of the bigger creators, obviously because it's, you know, their full-time job now, they'll post during the week. And so sometimes I'll post on a weekend because there's like just less of the really mainstream content coming out on the weekend. So, and I don't have any data to suggest that that's better or worse than during the week, but
yeah, that's kind of why I picked Monday, because in my own like feed of videos that I like to watch, I was like, everybody posts on Tuesday. Yeah. Post on Monday, and then of course the day I post, like they missed their dates just like everybody else, and so like it was a bunch of videos on Monday, and I was like, oh, okay, it's up there now.
Well,
it seems like there's a new person here.
Yes.
Hello, new person.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing alright, thanks. How's everybody?
Doing well.
We seem to be alright.
So if I'm not mistaken, Tim is
trying to talk. You're muted, Jackie.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Tim does half a Sideway, and do you want to tell him about your other channel?
Yeah, Proto Surge, which is eventually going to be a channel, more than it is now. I think I have one video, and actually it was Jackie's soldering iron that we fixed and got working. But more hands-on, taking things apart, designing things, building things, that type of stuff.
Cool.
And the behind the scenes for Sideway, of course. So.
Gotcha.
Behind the scenes is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I'm such a nerd for behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, there are lots of days when I'm like, can I just not be in front of the camera, please? Can I just do behind the scenes? Pull up other questions here. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say for the schedule thing, they said something about that at VidCon too. Somebody said, when's the best time? And they said, if I told you that, that's when everyone would post. And then it would be the worst time.
True.
But I feel like also with the scheduling thing, like maybe personally having a schedule is potentially a good idea, but we are so global now that, you know, our 2 a.m. is somebody else's 3 p.m.
Right.
So, you know, if you have a large following in, like, Australia or Britain or somewhere, like, maybe your worst time is their best time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
so the other person I make this with, she's from Pakistan, so like all of her friends are there, and it's a 9-hour difference. So like no matter time, whatever time we post, someone's sleeping somewhere.
Why can't we all just stay up? We don't need to sleep.
No sleep ever.
No sleep.
I think that's most noticeable for me during the Project for Awesome, which is coming up soon.
Speaking of no sleep, yeah.
And there's always somebody up and commenting on videos, no matter when.
The early morning hours are the best time to be on P4A live stream, though. Like, all of the ridiculous stuff happens at, like, 2 in the morning.
But Farchman!
Yes!
I was not there. I was so mad.
Oh, I was so there. It was brilliant. I laughed for like a half an hour. It was great. But everybody has to stay up into the wee morning hours.
Exactly. Oh, man. Other questions that we had here. I haven't seen any other audience ones come in. Have you seen it? No? Okay. So what's the... we kind of talked a little bit about this, but... what's either the thing you're most excited about with respect to creating your channel? What are you most excited to talk about? And then what's the biggest challenge or hurdle that you've come across so far? Either or both.
It's a good question. Thing I'm most excited about is probably kind of weird. We both just graduated McGill, so we've been in contact with a lot of McGill profs and kind of asking them what they want the public to know about. Or like if we have a question that we don't really know how to answer, we kind of go to them. So we're kind of being like a middleman between the actual scientists and people that are interested in science.
Awesome.
So that's what we're pretty excited about. Like our last video we did on color blindness and chroma. And there's like a color blindness expert at McGill, so we just like went to her and she explained it all to us.
What a great resource.
And then we kind of just wrote a script and posted it.
Awesome.
So that's probably what I'm most excited about.
That's cool.
How fun to have the resources to be like, I have a question about this thing. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, but see, I'm excited about all of like the projects I have planned, but at the same time, I don't want to be too specific because they might not happen. Or
making promises.
Yeah, I don't want to make it into an inadvertent promise. But then it was also just a lot easier to just think about sort of the biggest challenge has consistently been time management. Because if you're a starting YouTuber, you probably have a regular job and a life that takes up the majority of your time.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gabby.
It's just kind of like constantly being like, no, but I want to work on this other thing that I'm really excited about, but I don't have time.
but rent and groceries and
Yeah, and I'd like to, pay for food.
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally be like a real social human being in the world.
What?
Kind of overrated, but
No, yeah, that's actually why my last video went out on Wednesday rather than Monday.
we're all judging you.
I think that's potentially one of the hardest things about starting YouTube as well, at least for me, is that, you go to your full-time job, and for me it's a nanny, and so I speak to people who are under the age of 10 all day long, and then I come home and I want to do YouTube and internet and all of that stuff, but then I'm alone in my house with my camera. So, it's the going out and actually being social in real life that kind of gets pushed to the back burner, which is potentially more important than I'm giving it time for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's hard to balance especially when you're new. Do you want to lay the footwork so you build a community, or do you want to put out more content? Like, what you have to wear all the hats.
Right.
So are you learning how to use social media and using it? Are you learning how to make videos? Are you writing scripts? Like, which one of these things is going to be the most useful for your channel and for your time? Because you could make it.
So true.
Can make 1,000 videos and have like 4 people watch them if you don't try and market them. But then if you market too much, then you have no videos. So.
Right, and time is like the biggest resource, right? Because if you have full-time jobs, you have 3 hours at the end of the night, or 20 free hours in a week. How do you use those 20 hours to here and there to build whatever?
Yep.
I don't know about anybody else. I also have kids when I get home, which takes another chunk out of the time.
Good time. Well, and it's interesting because I think about back in 2007 YouTube days when all of these now big name creators were first getting started, and a lot of them weren't necessarily doing educational content in the way that we're talking about doing educational content. They were more vlogger style kinds of things. Right. But now because but now because the competition or the bar is set so high for educational content, there is the sense of you have to do all of the things. You have to be good at writing scripts, you have to be good on camera, you have to be good at making sure all your facts are right, you have to be good at post and animation, and then you have to be good at social media, whereas now a lot of the really successful creators who have these huge educational channels, they have people to do all those things. And I know we've talked about this before, like how do you manage to do all the things without all the people to do all the things?
Yeah. Oh, I sort of on that note is again, this is like why on the Reddit I brought up about talking about like thinking of your target audience, is because that helps you focus like where you're going to spend your effort. Like, what is that person going to care about? Do they want to see a big flashy video, or do they just want somebody talking? Or is it like, what audience are you trying to reach? Like, for instance, aside from disliking Facebook, I'm just not spending any time on that. Like, it's not worth it. It's not where I think the people that I'm trying to reach spend most of their time. I'm mostly focusing on Twitter, and then because I want some younger people, I'm also doing Tumblr, and that's it. Well, and Reddit, but like again, that's kind of like finding just
like pockets of
pieces and deciding this is all I'm going to do for now, and not try and add 10 extra things and be like, oh well, I could also do Instagram, and I could do Pinterest, and I could do whatever.
Well, it's so overwhelming, right? I mean, there's so many apps and so many platforms now, and as a newer creator, it kind of feels like you have to do all the things, and if you don't have yourself on all the things, then you're screwed. Which seems like the case, but is actually really not the case. Like, and I think we've touched on this before in a hangout. Like, be where you are, and do what you like to do and do that well. Like, there are things that I do and I like to do, and things that I don't, and hopefully that's where your community will be built up in.
Chad or Tim, any thoughts on any of the time issues? Like, where do you find best to invest your time and energy at this point?
So I'm actually pretty free because like I'm starting med school in a year, so I took a gap year.
Right.
So I have a lot of time.
you want to come work for me? I can't pay you, but
and because there's two of us, Rama kind of deals with. We started to do animations like after the first one when it was too long. We realized there was too much of my face just talking. So we decided to like jump between me talking and like these kind of cartoony animations to explain stuff. So she works on that. So like she spends hours doing that stuff. So it kind of frees up time for me. And then I spend I do most of the editing and most of the promotional stuff. So we kind of have split it up. So I have some time actually.
So what you're saying is you'd like an intern job with somebody else.
I mean, my part of my year off, I have stuff starting in January. So this is really the time when I actually have the resources to invest in all of this.
Yeah, savor that time.
yeah,
That's awesome.
So,
Cool.
do you have like plans for your channel in the future? Because I'm imagining med school is gonna be.
Yeah. So in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was keeping quiet when you said, "What are your plans when you can't post all the time?" Because I have no idea.
I like that one.
Fly by the seat
I
of
don't
your
know what
pants.
happens next year. Yeah. So we're trying to do as much as we can during this year, and we'll see what happens next year. I mean, I hope to continue with it. I just don't know where exactly that time is going to come from.
I think you should do Life of a Med Student. Like that would be fascinating. I think. I don't know.
Actually.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll adapt and evolve with it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought there that potentially our channels could adapt to something that we don't even recognize at this moment. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I was looking at the show notes here and the questions that we were talking about, and one of the things that I've been thinking about is what is your hope and dream for the next year of being a creator? Which is, for me personally, hopefully getting out more content regularly, trying to hone in on what the message is and how do I make it entertaining. But then, 3 years from now, my channel might be totally different. And hopefully in a good way, but who knows? So then, Chad, maybe your channel will be full of day and times of a med student.
just hour-long footage of the library.
Just have a little GoPro on your shoulder all the time.
Constantly banging your head against the wall. Yeah. I mean, grad school's awesome. Everybody should go. Oh, man.
I think having Tim has helped me a lot, like especially focus, because I just do like whatever cool topic pops into my head, and Tim has helped me be like, well, we should have like more focus goals for the channel.
I love how I tell you that. I don't do anything for my own.
But I think something we talk about a lot, and you can jump in whenever, Tim, is what makes us different. Like, we look at all the other channels, and we try and say, one, what are our skills? Like, what do we bring to the table? And what makes us different from all the other channels out there? And that kind of guides us forward. Because when I started, I just wanted to do hands-on stuff. That was all I wanted to do. And especially having lots of discussions, we figured out what are our strengths and what are the weaknesses, kind of like Jesse was talking about, in the YouTube education community. What are the gaps we can fill?
Yeah, so in that vein, Jesse and Chad, what are your hopes and dreams for your channel in the next year or so?
Well, I have a hope and a dream that it might at least be self-sustainable. That is, the amount of like time and money that I'm spending on this project will at least get to the point where I'm like, okay, well, I have enough of a following that, it's maybe not like literally paying for itself, but like to the point where I'm like, well, I feel very justified in like continuing to do this, because I kind of said to myself, like, I know I'm going to have to do this for more than a year for it to be the level of successful that I want it to be. You know, that was what I interpreted from, you know, Hank's quote of like, you know, well, to become really big on YouTube, you have to start 7 years ago.
Right.
I was like, I interpret that as, to become successful on YouTube, you have to commit for a long time. Like, you can't just like make 1 or 2 videos and be like, I did it, it's over. Like, you need to decide, like, this is a thing that you're gonna follow through on. And so that's one goal, and then sort of a related goal is I want there to be kind of like enough of a community where I feel like I'm really interacting with other people about stuff. You know, and kind of related to running out of time, like, there's a part of me that almost imagines that maybe I won't be the only host ever on YouCanScienceIt. Like, maybe somebody else will make a video, and then it'll become like an actual community of multiple people doing it. And, you know, I'll still sort of manage it and have it be like a, you know, so it has sort of a consistent style, and and you know, meets certain criteria of like, you know, you can do the experiment at your home and you don't spend a ton of money on the project, but that it's not necessarily me all the time. I'm hoping that the channel gets to the point where either I'm interacting with enough other YouTube people that it's like, you know, collaborations and that sort of a thing like become regular, or that it wouldn't be bizarre for me to decide like, oh, well, so-and-so from this other channel did a video, and then I did a thing for them. We're going to put them on all the stuff together. So yeah, that's sort of the goal that I'm going for. Also have some ridiculously difficult science experiments that I would really like to test for myself. Because, you know, just it's incredibly satisfying to actually go out and, you know, learn about something, go out and check it and be like, oh, it works the way that I was told it would work, and it does. And that's, you know, that enthusiasm is kind of what the channel is about. But there's a couple of like I want to, like, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I want to figure out a way to test relativity at home. That's like a really long-term goal.
Next week's video will be
with your Patreon support.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of the science that's there was like, you know, developed in like the 1800s, and I'm like, I have a toy laser that would have cost like $5,000 back in the day. And it's just $1, maybe.
And it's a cat toy now.
So for me, there are a few. I mean, we obviously want to engage an audience, and we, Rama and I, come from very different backgrounds. Cause I grew up in New York, and she grew up in Karachi, Pakistan, and with part of that was like slightly different educational systems and how different things were taught. So we kind of started like part of why we made this channel was we were talking about the differences, and we saw that a lot of people were being turned off by like nitty-gritty details. So it was either you had to like delve all the way deep and learn the nitty-gritty details, or you had like no idea how any of it worked. So we kind of are trying to like play this middle ground as well, just like Jesse said earlier on, where like, you know, why things, or why certain things, or you're curious about why certain things work, but you don't need to know every tiny detail about it. You can still have some general knowledge and understand why certain things work. And that's kind of why we've become the middleman between the scientists and the public for our channel. Because like we go to them, they talk to us about for 45 minutes about like frequencies of light and how that interacts with photopigments in your eye, and then we kind of try to make that into a 3-minute video. So,
Squish it all down.
so that's kind of what we've been doing. And we've both learned a lot because we would have never just gone to these professors or done all this research to learn it as in depth as we have to then kind of distill it.
Right.
So not only are we learning things, but we're trying to help other people learn, and for people that didn't necessarily like choose science early on, that they can still be interested in it and learn things about it, and then hopefully from there spring some curiosity. That might be pretty big goal. But like to find this middle ground of being interested in science without having to memorize stuff, and still learning how things work.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we are trying to do and continue to do the next year.
Science is not just the periodic table.
Right.
There's more fun stuff.
And it's not about memorizing every protein and whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
So med school.
I wasn't down to do that. Just not most people are down to do that.
Well, so there's another question. I'm not actually sure where this originally came from, but I think it goes along with what you were just talking about, Chad. With respect to educational content, what problems do you have with ensuring that the content is understood and not merely passively appreciated? So people might think your video is kind of cool, but if they don't learn anything from it, do you care as a creator? I mean, I think it's a little bit different for educational creators because the point of being an educational creator is to teach people stuff. So if they don't learn from it, is that a problem?
It's a good question. I mean, it's tough because YouTube's also entertainment.
Right.
So like, it's not like at the end of your video you can have like 3 questions and have them take a test. Like,
I don't know. You can actually. I mean, I've seen Veritasium, and there was another person who I saw do the same thing. Where at the end of the thing, they like had annotations where they're like, pick one, and I'm gonna see who figured it out afterward.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
You had to pick and be like, oh, like does the one that I'm remembering right now is Veritasium did one about buoyancy where he dropped a golf ball in some salt water and then like poured soap on top of it. You're nodding because you've probably seen it. But you had to actually, at the end of that, you pick which one. What do you think will happen? And so in some sense, that's like, from the creator standpoint, it's like, well, that gives them a very solid metric on like how well did people understand what I'm saying here, even though only a small percentage of people are actually going to click through. Just following that, you can, pull out some information about, did people understand what I was talking about, or at the end of the video, did they still not quite get what was going on?
But you don't necessarily know if they just click one just to see that.
That's true.
There's
probability.
Especially if there's only 2 choices.
Right.
That what you're talking about with Veritasium, actually, one of the ones he did was the buoyancy with the ping pong balls. One had a string on the way down, and one had an acrylic ball was dangling. And he explained it later, and I was like, man, I thought he know buoyancy, and I just don't understand what you said. So we actually made our own video trying to explain it a little bit better. Because even Destin from Smarter Every Day was in the comments trying to like guess at what was happening, and he picked one, but for the totally opposite reason. Like he picked the right one, but it was not for the same reason.
Not for the scientifically accurate reason. Yeah.
But I do think that's is a cool thing to do at the end of your video, is try and figure out if they learned it or not. I think the other thing is, because we can't cover everything, like you were saying, like you can't do the 45-minute interview, can you get them to a point where they want to continue on to something? If you can't teach them everything, can you get them to a point where they want to do the experiment that you had, Jesse, or to go and learn more about color blindness? I think sometimes that is a more achievable goal.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit challenging because the curiosity piece, I think, is a laudable goal and one that is really important. As is the communication piece, right? You want to communicate your science effect or your whatever educational topic you're talking about. You want to communicate it effectively so that people understand the content. But I also, because I'm more in the social science end of things, I want people to use the content. So whether it's they're thinking a little bit differently about how kids are thinking when they're little, that like kids think differently than adults do. So if an adult who's around kids at all, which guess what, all of us are, can think about that a little bit as the next time they're interacting with a kid and think, oh wait, okay, so they're maybe thinking about it this way. Maybe I should try this instead. That's really important to me, is that usability piece, and it's something that I'm kind of struggling with and trying to figure out as I keep creating. Because it is that hard balance of like I want to communicate the science and the accuracy and the stuff that I think is interesting and cool, but I also want it to be useful and usable in the real world.
And there's no way to really figure out if that's being effective in your case. Like you can't like pop into somebody's house and be like, hey, did you see that video? How'd it work for you?
Exactly.
Well, Tim, you jumped in here late after some of the questions. We asked the other guys early on, do you have any tips or tricks, and what have you learned from your YouTube experience that you could share with everybody?
If you're the first to something and you tag your videos very well, and you have a decent enough video, you can get some views. I like that one. But I think the biggest thing that I've found is I like continuity in some form between videos, and I think the hardest part for me is really planning to create some form of continuity so that you learn something that then builds upon each step throughout a series of videos. And I think one of the goals for my channel is to go through like project type activities, starting at here's how we have a problem, and go through an engineering process where we look at that and then create the steps so that you can learn how to think to solve problems. I think that's the biggest thing for me. And then you'll get to see the end result on the SciJoy channel.
I think you raise an interesting point there and an interesting distinction, because so often the educational content that we see is in these one-off videos that people they do one 5 to 10 minute video on a particular topic, and then they'll jump over to something else completely different. But I've also been thinking a lot about the idea of building, so sort of scaffolding your learners along the way. How do you lay a good foundation and then kind of take them through a process or through some content. That's why I really love like what Crash Course does. They've got the whole series of videos that they've planned out. You can tell from the very beginning. They take a little bit more of a traditional educational approach to it, but that's something that I've been toying with too. How do you do that? How do you make sure that somebody doesn't just jump in at video 6? Like you can do some prompting to say, hey, go back and watch. The up through here. But how do you make sure that they know about that or follow along the whole way? And it just there's a lot of things like that I'm kind of wrestling with right now.
So, like, you'd want each of them to kind of be standalone, but also build upon each other? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. And they work at cross purposes. Those two things are different.
Yeah, I know I've been kind of going back and forth with that on my stuff. Like, the last ones were kind of a set. And that happened a little bit by accident, where really the way that I think about a lot of these things is what makes them interesting is I'll have two sort of separate ideas that I'll want to bring together into one video, but then when I was doing this, I was like, this is like 3 or 4 videos. I can't associate this and have it be any kind of coherent thing. So then it ended up being a playlist, and I'm sort of having the same, there's a setup that I'm doing that's about like gases flowing through things, but like falling down this rabbit hole, and I'm like, there's so much more here to explain than I ever really was anticipating. My basic chemistry teacher just didn't didn't teach me all this, okay. So it's sort of been happening by accident that I end up inadvertently scaffolding, being like, oh, well, this was from that other one, and then I figured this thing out. But also a little bit in some of the choices I've made with, like my first one was, the standing wave with what note is my toothbrush. The reason that I started with that one is because I know that every single, like not every single, but many of the videos that follow, I'm going to be talking about standing waves or wavelengths or that sort of a thing, and I wanted to be able to have something extra to be like, oh, do you want to learn a little bit more in a more, concrete, like here's actually a string vibrating rather than, an electromagnetic wave or something. So it was a little bit simpler.
I really liked that video. I thought it was really fun, and personally, one of the things that I really liked is when you had the equation on the screen, and you were talking about frequency and number, and what do all these letters mean? And you explained frequency is, vibratiness. I was like, yes, that's okay. I get vibratiness.
I can connect with that. Yeah.
Right. Like the 11-year-old that I sometimes watch will get vibratiness. Like, okay,
You have to. I always have to remember to try and simplify.
I liked it. It was good.
Thank you. Yeah, I was. I'm trying to remember who the quote was from. I want to say it was CGP Grey. I don't remember. But there was a quote along the lines of, overestimate your audience's intelligence and underestimate their vocabulary. Meaning, everybody who sees it can understand the thing. They just haven't had, 4 to 8 years of college to teach them all of the terms that you would like to use.
They are smart, but they just don't know the words. Yeah.
The simple way.
So, Chad, is that kind of how you translate from professor to the rest of us?
Yeah. And the problem is that also you also need the words sometimes to refer back to it.
Yep.
So it's hard to both explain. At some point you're gonna have to give them some word so that you can say it later on in the video. But yeah, it's tough. And sometimes you kind of miss precisely what it's getting at if you try to explain it quickly, because even we had a big problem with the color blindness one, because we try to show that your rods can absorb different wavelengths, and it's called an absorption spectrum, but we didn't want to burden them with all that, so we kept going back and forth on what we should call it. And yeah, it's a lot of our struggle.
How much terminology to use? Yeah, that's definitely something I run into too. Is defining terminology and using it and being accurate, while also being accessible. That is real hard.
Also, that comes up when you choose to name your videos. I've been very guilty of this. All my videos have way too technical terms in them. But I guess the what note is my toothbrush is a better name, because it just sort of is asking this relatively simple question, and there's no technical jargon floating around in it. And then I gave up on the quantum physics.
That I found amusing, because I was like, I've never thought about that, but what note is my toothbrush?
Right.
Yeah, that advice, trying to come up with a name like that was, I think I was listening to an interview with Michael Stevens of Vsauce fame, where he was talking about your title should be accessible, it's your initial hook to pull somebody in, and it should be the kind of thing that somebody might actually type in, even if they didn't know they were looking for your stuff. And then the other piece of advice, which again I have broken repeatedly, is don't repeat your title as the first thing you say in the video. Because your user has already read that. They know what the video is supposed to be about. They saw they saw the thumbnail, they read what it was, and they're like, all right, I'm on board for what note is my toothbrush, And I just wasted like 15 seconds at the beginning of my video saying that.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I think we're getting at like an hour, so
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys if you have questions for us, and then we'll do something we have called channel check-in, and we'll just kind of go around and say if we're having any issues, and please let us know if there's anything that we can do as a community to help you guys, or anything that you think We Create EDU should be doing a little bit differently to help you or other people. So do you guys have any like general questions for us before we go into channel check-in?
I actually do. Do you guys know what your demographics of views are? Because I saw a hangout with Physics Girl, and she was even saying that like 80 to 85% of her viewership is male.
Most of mine is female, but I think that has more to do with the topic than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a topic, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Most of mine personally is female, and from like specifically 18 to 35. So I think that's just, you know, my demographic. Usually caregivers are younger and mostly female.
Yeah, my videos are excessively male. So, and that in part that's because that's who I'm thinking about and targeting. But at the same time, it's getting a little ridiculous. I think I'm gonna have to do something.
I think ours is also mostly guys. I'm looking up right now. And I think it's in that age range of like late 20s, early 30s kind of thing.
And
Yeah,
go ahead.
when I was looking at mine, I was reminded of like lean beef. It's like 97% male.
We should do a collab and see if we can cross our...
No, that sounds good.
There are some males who watch my channel, like you!
Yay!
Bring all the other dads. Let's talk about it.
And we're the girls who are watching your channel. Yay!
We can represent your female population.
Yeah, but you know, like again, I only have like like 60 some subscribers at this point, so it's like, well,
that's all right. That's a start.
It's a start, but you know, in terms of like statistics, I can't.
Right. Yeah. The data, it's really rough.
Yeah, we are 73% male, and they are pretty much all 18 to 44. Yeah, and I know that most of the things I've gone to that have had like male YouTuber guys on there, I always feel bad for them because they always get asked the question, why aren't you catering towards women or something like that? And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I always feel bad because I know like Destin has always been really nice and supported us. And if you watch his videos, his daughter is in it as much as his son's. Like he always engages. And I'm like, that's what you need to do. Yeah. You need to just say we're the same and encourage it that way. And I always feel bad when somebody stands up and is like, why aren't you getting more female? And I'm like, well, I don't know how. I'm a female, and I don't know how to do it. Like, how? Where are they?
New audience, share it with more females. Like, tell your sister, tell whoever.
Yeah. Well, and then it goes to the bigger, societal societal machine of, why can't young girls be consistently interested in science and being curious about the world and that sort of thing. So, just destroy society, and then we'll solve all the problems, right?
On our next hangout. We destroy the patriarchal society.
But yeah,
I think most popular hangout today.
Sarah, I think you mentioned this in the Reddit too, trying to do maybe more collabs and stuff, and I'm trying to, when we have more of a series of videos, I'm going to try and reach out more to probably women in engineering, like SWE and stuff like that, try and get more females to watch.
Yeah, Yeah, I only ask because Physics Girl was like saying the same stuff. Like, I'm a woman on this, and yet I don't know how.
Yeah.
And she was like trying to find other YouTubers who had predominantly female and try to collaborate with them, but she said it was hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if any of you who are watching this have female engineers.
I was watching that same one, and they brought up that Whiteheart has pretty even split.
That's interesting.
And I think a part of that is like her choice in content is like it's like very general.
It's gender neutral. Like, it's very gender neutral.
It's very gender neutral. You also you don't see her, but I think like as something that you could do that's a little more concrete and is like again like naming your videos differently and picking your search terms, because somebody who maybe isn't already involved in science or might be looking for something but phrase it a different way, like that might help. I don't know. I'm gonna try. We'll see what happens.
I guess when I'm thinking of like an older like audience, but there's definitely things you can do for younger audiences. Like you were saying, changing it. I talked to Maker. Oh, man, I can't remember. Maker You. Does anyone remember? She had those at VidCon. She had the stickers and the buttons, and I can't remember the name of her channel, and I feel really, really bad. But she was doing a lot of hands-on stuff too, and she was teaching people about 3D printers. And as soon as she did that, like she saw her subscriptions.
Maker High.
Maker High, thank you. She saw her subscriptions kind of like plummet, and she went through and she actually went back and messaged some of the subscribers, and they were like, "We think that's like beyond what we can do," kind of thing. And so she went back and she privated all those videos, and she was like, "Okay, 3D printing is like using a hot glue gun." And she started from the basics, and she did like more of an artsy crafty thing, and then she moved further into like 3D printing. But her audience was, I think, a younger crowd too. So yeah, I think it's harder when you're looking for maybe an older crowd of how do you cater it one way or another maybe. But I think, like you were saying, Jesse, not using it as like harsh of terms might help too. But I know that's what she did to get her audience back.
I just have to share because I find this fascinating. I'm currently on my analytics, and apparently, so I have 70% female audience overall, and apparently dudes from Canada and United Kingdom like me more than dudes from the United States. So there's 26% male from the US, and then it jumps to like 38% from Canada and the UK, which I'm like, not that that's any significant at all. It's just
thanks, Canada and the UK.
Thanks, Canada. You guys are awesome.
That's so interesting.
Oh, analytics. I could go down the analytics rabbit hole. Oh, it's so dangerous.
Let's go find all of those people and message them and see why.
So if you don't have any more general questions, we can just go around and everyone just say what you've been up to, or more importantly, anything that you might be struggling with, anything we can help you out with. Somebody want to start?
I can jump in. So Chelsea and I did a thing.
We did a thing.
Yay! We both were like, we're gonna do it this week. We're gonna do it. So we did a collaboration when Chelsea was here visiting me in Minnesota, and so we both posted those videos on our respective channels. You should go check them out.
So go to Developmental Enthusiast and go to Practical Pop-Ins and watch them at the same time. Whoa! No.
Yeah, back to back.
Possibly.
Yeah, we didn't do that cool toilet flushing thing, but
Okay. Next time.
Next time, yeah. But maybe I don't know, Jacqueline, can we put the links to those in the description section of our video here?
Yeah.
The chat one.
The collaborations that come out of We Create.
Exactly. Because Chelsea and I did not know each other before that, so
That's true.
So that's the big update. I'm going to be on NFI on Friday. So NFI is Nerd Fighters Info, for those of you who don't know. It's a fun collaborative channel. It's a different person every day talking about, they have like weeks of themes, and this week's theme is adulthood, and when and how you became an adult. And I'm
Adulthood with the question mark.
yeah, really. So doing that this week, and hoping to get some more stuff out on my channel in the next week or so. I did do some interviews with some of my colleagues and graduate student colleagues, especially to talk about graduate school, but also to talk about their work in developmental psychology. So I'm going to have a series of videos out of that stuff, which was awesome. I'm so happy that I just went and spent a couple hours with them, and they were so great. So more to come on that front, which will be exciting. So that's my update.
Yay, that sounds exciting. I want to watch all of those.
Hey, you get to see like an MRI machine, not a real one, a fake one, but yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Like a tiny one?
Well, it's a full size one, but they use it basically so that when kids come in and they're gonna do an MRI for research, they get to try it out. So it's like a mock scanner, it's a trial scanner. So they do the whole like, oh, this is what the headphones look like, and this is how you get in the tunnel, and yeah. So that'll be fun. I'm excited for that one.
I'm excited about that. So I guess I'll go next since we did a thing together. So yeah, that's the exciting thing that's happening on my channel is we did our first collab. Yay! At least I did my first collab with you. And so that's out, and that's exciting. And hopefully the video that I'm working on will be out on Saturday. Yay! And yeah, life is going relatively good and smooth over on Poppins. So life is good.
I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I'm working on right now is sort of the last of the footage from when I was still using my cell phone to record. Because I started kind of a longer project that involved doing things over multiple days, and so that was started a while ago, and now I finally have all the footage. So hopefully it will be coming out, but now that I'm finally coming back to it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is missing information. So yeah, if I meet my own deadlines, it should be out next week on a day.
A day that ends with Y.
Yeah, on a day that ends with Y.
And Sunday can be the beginning or the end of the week, or Monday could also be the beginning or the end of the week. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and in terms of Recreate EDU stuff, I think the biggest thing was actually getting and doing this Hangout was super helpful in getting into the nuts and bolts of figuring out like, oh, right, this is the thing I can do and join in.
Yeah.
Yay! So that's been really helpful, and I kind of mentioned before we went live that we've been struggling with the lower third thing. We think it's a browser problem, but I think it would be really good to do a little bit of maybe make a little video about like, oh, this is how you set this up when you join in, and this is some of the problems we've had. Just kind of like go over that briefly.
Yeah, we have one of how to set one up on the We Create EDU channel, but I was trying to make one on the reverse side for how do you join if you've never done
like
it before.
the how do you join exactly.
I have to get a computer that doesn't have all this stuff set up.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem.
But that's a good suggestion. So, thanks.
Well, and thanks for coming on to the channel tonight.
Yes, I hope I can do it again sometime.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess I'll go next.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff. We recently started like a mini series where we try to explain stuff in about a minute. So we've been trying to do more of those to kind of get the whole series thing going. So we're working on a bunch of scripts for that. I'm actually supposed to email him tonight. We're doing collaboration with, it's a channel called Step Back. It's like a history type channel.
Oh.
So we're doing some science stuff mixed with history.
Cool.
And we're working on, so we're based out of Montreal, and there's another science group based out of Toronto, so we're kind of doing, they're called Science Ninjas. We're doing a collaboration with them. We're still trying to figure everything out. We're trying to do something where, like, we compare something in Montreal versus Toronto.
Oh, cool.
So we'll see how that goes. So there's quite a bit. It's a lot of just researching, writing scripts, seeing what works, what doesn't.
Yeah. Trial and error.
Yeah, a lot of that. So it's hard to nail down because, like, when we write a script, it changes so much that, like, it's hard to say that we're doing something and then it might be totally different, like 2 hours.
Creativity.
Yeah.
In terms of this, like, these hangouts are, it's good to learn what other people are doing. Just because we are pretty new to YouTube and are kind of just figuring it out as we go along. So, like, it's good to hear how you promote, like, if you use Reddit, how you use it well. So kind of how people promote their channel, search optimize their channel, that type of stuff. So just connecting other YouTubers and seeing what problems they have and how they've dealt with them. I like the dog. That's basically it. And thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, no problem. In line with having them on, I just want to say that we were just talking with Chad on Twitter, and he asked, like, how can I join? And we were like, just join. This is the next time we're doing it. So if there's somebody watching that would find this valuable, let us know. We would love to rotate people through, get more voices on here instead of just the same 4 of us. New ideas. And if you ever do have, like, a random question, like, I know when I tried to do a channel trailer, there's, like, a secret hidden pencil button that you have to find and click and do. So if you can't find it in Google Help or something, you can always just tweet at us, and we will try and figure it out. So if it's 3, it doesn't matter. Whenever you have an issue, just send it to us, and we may know, we may not, who knows. But it's probably quicker than reporting a problem to Google or YouTube. So feel free to do that. Tim, are the dogs attacking you, or do you want to give a SciJoy update?
We'll try. So, let's see. Where are we with SciJoy? It's been a while since we had our last video, but we did work on. We went to a friend's wedding in west of DC, and we stopped by the Air and Space Museum in Dulles, right next to Dulles Airport. And if you didn't know, Jackie worked on the space shuttle before, so we got to learn a little bit of cool stuff about it, and you will get to see it. So should be a little fun. It was more of a let's just go to this place and get some video, and she forgot a battery or SD card.
SD card.
So I used my new phone, and thankfully I think we did okay.
Woohoo!
And we do have a lot of stuff under works as well as far as some content that we're working on. I think it's several episodes, but we're going to release them all at once, I believe, the plan. So it's hard to figure out what we can do that will be satisfactory during the time that we're really working on the other project as well. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, and we have some collabs and partnerships that are kind of in the works too, possibly. So there's a lot of back end stuff.
That's right. We'll grab out the bat box.
Yeah, the bat box is made and most of the footage is done. I just have to write the script for it, like reverse it. Here's the footage, and here's the script. That's most of SciJoy stuff, and I'll go over some We Create EDU. I guess this is maybe SciJoy. I'm also going to be on the Nerdfighter Info channel, which is another channel that if you want to do something, just ask. I think if you go to their Tumblr, or even in most of the description of the videos, they say tweet Pat, or I can't remember the other person.
I think it's Dave.
And you just say, I would like to join. They'll send you some topics. You can pick a topic in a day, and just, if you want to practice vlogging or whatever, that's another channel. It's really great to join. So I'm going to be doing that next Thursday. Nerdfighter Online Video Workshop is still happening if anyone wants to submit videos. Our next hangout is going to be December 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to be on there with We Are St. Elmo's Fire, talking about just general online video production stuff. They're a group channel too. What else? Oh, we are trying to do more concerted effort. I hope you've noticed in our social media campaign.
We're trying.
We are trying. And we have a whole list of YouTubers that we really like that we want to showcase. So if you're interested in finding more YouTubers to watch in the EDU field, please follow us on our social medias and then go find their channels and like them and comment and support them. So we have a whole list we'll be sending out soon. I think that's most of the stuff I have for. Oh, and the Project for Awesome is coming up. For anyone that doesn't know, it's a 2-day live stream where we promote other people's videos that they've submitted. They're all about charities, and I'll put a link down below because Hank will explain it way better in a video than I can do right now. But if we want to try and do something together, not necessarily create a video, but it's a really cool time to hang out and meet a lot of other YouTubers and find a lot of other YouTubers. So if we all want to go on Twitter together or have a, I don't know, hashtag, I don't know the best way to do it. Because I had 5 different conversations going last year. So if anyone watching can figure out a good way for us to all talk together during it, let us know. I think that's. Do you guys have any other updates for We Create EDU?
Yeah, the only other thing is if we can make a note to put in the description below everybody's channel, a link to everybody who was on today, just so that if you're watching and you want to check out any of these awesome people that you've seen, go check their stuff out. Good stuff.
So I think that's pretty much all I have for this. So thank you guys so much for watching. As I said before, our next one will be on December 7th. We don't have anything for the Wednesday in December, so if you guys have a topic that you want to cover, just let us know on one of the social medias or down in the comments, and we'll see if we can cover it for you guys. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next month.